What's going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday night here from your friends at Kaulignation with Rammin is Racing Episode 4 live on our YouTube channel. Again, for every other episode, you can sign up over on Patreon, patreon.com/Kaulignation. The link should be in the description below. And if not, it's pretty easy to find. So, um, tonight we're going to talk about the Kaulig Racing expansion. I don't know if I'd say new developments in that regard, but there's definitely stuff to talk about, stuff to pick into with Chris Rice's interview this morning, and some of the rumored names out there that are being talked about. And we're also going to talk about if SVG still has any shot at advancing to round 2 right after this. As I was saying earlier, technology, not our friend today. Joined by, as always, pardon me, my partner in crime, Mr. Ryan. What's going on, man? It's nice to see you back at home.
Yes, I feel all warm and fuzzy around all my racing diecast cars and hats and lanyards from all the races I've been to. It's nice to be back home. Long couple weeks on the road. Super happy to get settled back in. It's been a bit of a quiet week. The performance wasn't super great for any of the Kaulig Trackhouse cars last weekend over at Worldwide Technology Speedway, so that was disappointing. But hey, it's a new week, new information, new stories to tell, so I'm super excited to dive into it.
Yeah, as am I. I have to say, I think personally for me that the Xfinity race not only went miles better for Kaulig and company, but as I try to get rid of Mr. Troll, not that his comment bothers me all that much, this app just sucks tonight. So, yes. Alrighty. Yeah, no, I loved the Xfinity race, man. I thought had that gone another 10 laps or gotten one more restart, it would have given Eckes a chance to put the bumper to Zilish. And frankly, considering the season Eckes has had, I think he would have done exactly that. I don't know if he would have won, but there would have been contact for sure. So I really did like what the Xfinity cars did. Dye stuck in a top 10 after running basically top 15 all day, and Daniel Hemrick was running about 10th all day, which still miles better for that 11 car this year. And here we are talking about 3 top 10s in the Kaulig Xfinity class. And I want to say that's the first time that's happened this year.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I believe that was the first time we've had all 3 cars in the top 10 this year. Listen, I really don't want to pile onto the Josh Williams diatribe, but it doesn't look good for him, right? I think pretty much everybody that stepped into that car since he left the team has performed substantially better than he did in that car. And yeah, Daniel Hemrick was very solid. I mean, he stepped right back in after 2 years away from the Xfinity series and basically ran at top 10 all night long. I mean, which is just the prototypical, Daniel Hemrick performance. He never really pushed the envelope, never really pushed for a win, but he just stayed consistent pretty much up front all night. And it was great to see Christian Eckes slowly, methodically work his way to the front. Even in practice, I know his spotter, Coleman Presley, was giving him a lot of, credit and a lot of confidence, saying, hey, you're running that line. If you can run that line all night long, you got a top 3 car. They knew that kind of from the jump in practice. And they went out and then executed a really smooth race. Had they qualified a bit better, they may have given themselves a chance to win it at the end. Another caution certainly would have helped. It, of course, was a track position race, and you kind of saw throughout the course of the race, the course of the runs, that you could gain a couple positions early and then just settle in for 30 or so laps until the end of the stage, or a caution, or even just a fresh set of tires gave you another opportunity to try to move forward a little bit. And I was really proud of all of the teams and drivers for executing a pretty flawless race. And yeah, I guess by far, I think it was probably his best performance of the year. Honestly, I know he's had a couple other top fives on the road courses, but just consistency and competitiveness and speed in the car. At the end of the day, I don't think anybody had anything for Zilich per se, but had he gotten a chance to get to the bumper, and honestly, same thing with Sawalich, right? Sawalich finished second for JGR. He also needed to win to get into the playoffs. So my hope was Sawalich, who we, from previous years has shown to win races using his bumper, would maybe make a move that wasn't so good for Zilich and give us our guy a chance to sneak through for a win, and never quite panned out. But listen, if they can keep running like that for the next 8 weeks or so, 7, I'm not sure if they have 7 or 8 races left, then I'll be really, really happy with the turnaround for that organization. And we don't know what next year is going to look like and how many cars or how much support, but if they can end the year strong, it will definitely give them momentum going into whatever next year looks like for any of those drivers and teams.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was a positive way to get out of the weekend, because the Cup race not only went terrible for anything ECR, uh, it was a terrible race. That it just doesn't work with that tire they brought. And we got Bristol this weekend, man. Let's start talking with the Kaulig stuff here, and we'll get to SVG towards the end of the video. Um, the first sort of shoot a drop maybe looked like it was going to be Brendan Queen, who is going to run this weekend in the same car Daniel Hemrick was in this past weekend, the 11 Action Industries Kaulig Racing Xfinity Chevrolet. What's your excitement level, and does this mean more?
I do think it means more, 100%. I mean, where there's smoke, there's fire. We've kind of been playing with the embers now for about 2 months. And, the name Brandon Butterbean Queen has really popped up since the announcement that Dodge Ram was coming back with Kaulig. And, he's the current points leader in ARCA. He was, I believe, the defending Cars Tour champion. There's a lot of talent there. Obviously, he's making a pretty significant step up in terms of competition, running the Xfinity series. We know where Kaulig's been at this year, and expecting a rookie and driver that's never driven this car to step in and do some pull miracles. I'm not expecting that, but I definitely think he's going to come in and perform. It is a short track. Bristol is a beast in and of itself, and I hope he can run pretty consistently top 15 all night. I think that would be the expectation from my side. And honestly, I don't see a reason why they would put him in this car if they don't already have an agreement in place to bring him into the fold at Kaulig full time in trucks next year. And this is just it's something I said to you off air that we know there's some some questions about where the Xfinity program is going to go with Kaulig. Are they going to have one car or 2 cars? I think the idea of running 3 is completely out the window at this point, but there's 3 current teams, right? So where is that staff going? Where are those? Where is Eddie Pardue going? This could very much be a dry rehearsal for next year, where Eddie Pardue and that team is running a truck, and Brandon Queen is the driver. And this is just that first opportunity to start building that relationship and learn the communication between the two. I mean, I'm just a bit speculating on that, but it would certainly make a lot of sense for that relationship to come to pass. And this would certainly be a step in the right direction for where that could potentially go into next year.
Yeah, I don't know if Eddie has any truck experience or not, and if he does, I don't know if I want him being one of the crew chiefs, if I'm being honest. But we'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. In a couple of moments here, I'm going to try, and I stress try, playing a little clip from the Chris Rice interview on SiriusXM this morning. The audio quality might not be perfect, but it gives us some stuff to sort of read into here as we get further along with this thing. And then Break Hard, as well as I can't remember the other one, so I don't want to guess. but a couple of people have suggested that Haley Deegan might be on her way back to the NASCAR Truck Series. And I got to be honest, man, I got to be careful how I word this because I don't want to come across like a hater. But you got 5 fully paid trucks. You don't need to be doing the Haley Deegan thing. And I hope it is. I think she was rumored to be talking with McNally as well. I hope it's McNally, and what that is doing is opening up one of the McNally guys to come here. Like, you're fully funded. You don't need to do the Haley Deegan thing.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Haley Deegan coming into a truck for Kaulig or Ram at all in any way, shape, or form. I mean, they've made it very clear that performance is a very key contributor to where they want to go. I understand that they are doing this gong show situation where they're going to give some late model guys some opportunities, and we'll see how that pans out. But there are too many quality drivers available to even, I think, look at Haley Deegan. And listen, when she first came in a couple of years ago, I was legitimately encouraged, curious, I guess, to see how she would perform. She did quite well in the ARCA series, ARCA West. But she's proven now over numerous years driving some really good equipment in the truck series that she just doesn't quite have what it takes. She's ran the Xfinity series, AM Racing, finished 30 something in the points. That team's in the playoffs this year with Harrison Burton. And she was really bad there last year. And she was, without question, the worst driver in the Indy Lights series over there on the IndyCar side this year, where she spent this year. There's no reason to bring her in. They've made it clear it's that they want to try to win, and you would be it'd be very counterintuitive to put a Haley Deegan in there. I have no doubt she's going to come back to the truck series. She has support, she has funding. But as you said, the Kaulig organization doesn't need it. The truck is funded. I would be super, super, super surprised if Haley Deegan comes anywhere close to a Kaulig Dodge Ram truck next year.
So let's play devil's advocate here while I get this audio set up. What's your reaction if she's one of the drivers, given everything we've heard on official capacity to this point?
I mean, I would be definitely disappointed. I would definitely start questioning some of the decision processes that Ram and Kaulig have put into place, because then they would be going against what they've been saying. And obviously, I don't want to have that sort of back. Maybe they're not what maybe they're not going to do what they say they're going to do. But at the end of the day, there are 5 trucks. If one of them happens to be Haley Deegan, it's not going to be the end of the world. You just know that truck is there for exposure, and if that's what they are in fact looking for one of the trucks, then again, I would certainly not be excited about it. I wouldn't. I think you're throwing away an opportunity. I think you're throwing away, the time, honestly, because the one thing about this is it's not just the driver, right? You've got a bunch of crew. You got a crew chiefs, engineers, everybody that does the road. All of these people that are going to be working for this organization. They're looking for opportunities too, right? They want to perform. They want their vehicle. They want their truck to perform. They want to stand out and show that they themselves have the ability to move up in the ranks, because the truck series is not just the starting point for drivers. The truck series is the starting point for the over on the road crews and pit crews, and they all have these goals and aspirations to move up. So I think if you put a Haley Deegan in a truck, you're really throwing away a lot of opportunities for more than just a driver, more for just a team. So again, it would be one of 5 trucks. It wouldn't be the end of the world, but it would be very disappointing for them to do it.
All right, we're going to give our best chance at, or best go at doing this here. Am I echoing at the moment?
Yes, you are.
Right, that would make sense. Okay. Hopefully I won't be here in a second. And if it is echoing, then please let me know.
on social media asking sort of what the update is, Chris, of going forward. You talked about building a.
Is that okay there, Ryan?
Yeah, it's fine.
Race shop potentially up there in Welcome, the truck infrastructure. What can you tell the listeners about how that's coming along?
Well, it's coming along pretty good. We had some calls last Friday about what the future looks like, with some of the other stuff that we're doing, and I think over the next week or so we'll be able to have some updates of what that looks like. It was a lot of moving parts up until last Friday, and I think the puzzles are getting put together very well. And I'm excited to say this. It is a life-defining moment when you do things like what we did with Ram and the truck deal. And I think it's going to be, over the next couple of years, you're going to see Kaulig Racing changing of how it looks and what it looks like and the direction it's going. And I think this is just a step in that way. I can tell you, I know leading up to the announcement was awesome. After the announcement, you think, well, Chris, you're good. You have no, everything's fine. You get to have sleep and everything else. I think I've gotten less sleep since the announcement and, trying to help the guys and girls continuously race and do the things that they need to do to be able to be successful on a racetrack, but also looking at what the truck series looks like in 2026. Who's hanging bodies, who's doing what. We have a guy in place to kind of look over that. Where are the bodies coming from? Where are the chassis coming from? All of that stuff has been a lot of fun, but also been a lot of sleepless nights for me as the mind runs and thinks about what the best way is. And, I think one of the biggest questions everybody's going to have, who's driving them? Who's driving them? Who's driving them? Well, as we always say, now that you have Ram and OEM involved, they have a big decision. And when we announce that, who they are, and when they decide that we can tell everybody, we can tell everybody. It's always been that we could just do it whenever we wanted to. Now it's definitely a lot more players that get to make a decision of when we get to announce this stuff. But we look good as, where we're going and how it looks and what we're going to look like as in where our shop's at, what those things are going to happen. So over the next couple of weeks, I hope I get to be able to tell all the fans and the listeners that are waiting to see. But we're going to hold you down just a little bit longer before we tell you.
Fair enough, my friend. Let's talk about Gateway.
All right, Ryan, while I get switched back over here, what do you take from that? Also, what was not in there was him mentioning that they're now up over 150 employees. And prior to the Ram announcement, I believe they're around 102. So they've already added a whole lot of staff.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to hear, right? Like the announcement was a month ago, maybe even a little less than a month ago. So to go from where they were at that point to what sounds like pretty good idea of their direction. It sounds a competition director of some sort for the truck series is in place. They've got they know where some chassis are coming from, it sounds like, which I mean we've been discussing that likely is coming over from Spire in some capacity. I think they've probably finalized that situation. And we know from last week that they, hired some staff from R Motorsports, and R Motorsports happens to have a shop on the RCR Welcome campus. And, when you can really start inferring that things are falling into place. And, there's still a lot of things that need to happen. And I'm sure the details need to be fully ironed out still. But it's certainly nice to hear that they've come to a point where they feel like they're ready to make some announcements, waiting on Ram. And I know one of your concerns was, are they going to drop all the names at once and then, kind of fall out of the news cycle? It certainly sounds like Dodge and Ram in particular have a very specific plan in how they want to do the announcements and try to maximize that exposure. So I am excited about that. And again, identifying the fact that the team is going to look very different over the coming years is just a final example of, Ram, Dodge, Kaulig are one happy family right now, and the long-term success of of both parties seems to be very intermingled with each other. So I'm super excited to hear these announcements when they come, and I really do feel really confident that they are going to be able to hit the ground running next year in Daytona.
So I guess one of the things that we can do here this evening is, if people go back to a tweet that I believe we retweeted this morning and has kind of taken off of as its own thing here. I won't say gone viral, but it's done very well for itself. Um, is we mentioned, I believe it was last Friday, that we had an idea where their new shop was, and it's not the original one we thought. And it comes from a source we trust quite a bit. And then when Chris Rice comes out there today and mentions what he did in that interview about, having things lined up and they really fell into place last Friday, it makes me go, okay, well, there's probably something to this. And then another friend of ours overheard some stuff on pit road. They weren't specifics, but just about pieces falling into place on the Friday. So, to me, that's coming from three different places. I wish I could sit here and guarantee that this is accurate, but I will preface this by saying we believe that it's accurate, and it makes a whole lot of sense. And that is, we were told last Friday that Kaulig Racing was either in the process or had purchased the Our Motorsports race shop, the team that went out of business this year in Xfinity, team that punched above its weight class for a few years there. At one point was running 3 cars and then downsized to 2 cars and then somehow downsized all the way to a point where you have 1 car and you're only surviving because of Chris Wright is not a very great place for your organization to be in. The Our Motorsports race shop is on RCR campus. So, they stay logistically close. I've done a couple of video tours from there since we got this information, and I'll say this, obviously it's a little out of date building. It's gonna need some renovations, but I'm not talking like full facelift. I'm talking about something that can probably be done within a month or two. They also get storage facilities with it, which we know they were interested in. Again, it could turn out that we're wrong about this, but all indications seem to be that Kaulig Racing has purchased the Our Motorsports race shop. They will keep another facility yet again on RCR campus, and it should finally squash the oh my God, they're running Ram or Dodge or whatever. They can't be on RCR property. And to recap that a little bit, again, Matt Kaulig bought the property that the 2 current Kaulig buildings sit on. It's just in RCR campus. And I don't know if that's the case this time around, but it makes sense logistically, man. I know we were looking at that other building, which might have been a step up in terms of size and stuff, but you look at the race shop floor in there for Our Motorsports, it's actually bigger than the Kaulig floor. It just needs updating.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they said up front they were looking for more space, and we did some, I'm going to say, sleuthing around and found a property about 10-15 minutes away from where they currently are that made sense to us. But I mean, at the end of the day, we didn't know. But now we do know Our Motorsports as a organization has folded, and they've already hired. What is the gentleman? Is it Stefanski? I forgot the
Dan
guy's name.
Stillman.
Stillman. Okay, yes, I wasn't close there. But yeah, they already hired Dan Stillman from Our Motorsports. So, again, when you start connecting the dots, it just makes sense. It is on the campus or very, very close to the campus. And I look at it also as you made the comment earlier. They now have 150 employees, and they've done that very quietly, as you noted in a couple videos already, that we haven't seen a lot of job listings and openings, and but yet they seem to have really kind of ramped up their staff. And to me, my suspicion here is that they went over to Our Motorsports and scooped up the building. I'm going to assume they scooped up a handful of the equipment that was in that building, because they could still use the tools, the jacks, some of the equipment. Obviously, the truck bodies are different than Xfinity, but there's some definite reuse there to what was already in that space. And then I'm guessing they hired some of those staff members, and I'm not sure how big Our Motorsports was as an organization. They weren't huge by any stretch, but even if they had 15, 20 people working for them, that really does help fill a big void for what Kaulig is trying to do with the 5 trucks. So, just thinking holistically, that singular moment, that purchase potentially of all of the Aura Motorsports assets would go a long way to filling the need for what Kaulig is trying to do. So, again, we don't know if that's for sure the case, but when you look at it and see how quickly they've ramped up, to where they are, only a month away from that, from that announcement, that there's a lot to say there that really makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think logistically staying close too helps. It allows. This is where I don't get the whole non-shared information thing, but it allows Ty and Matt and Chris to go building to building with relative ease. Those that don't know where the building is but has an idea about RCR campus, it's across from the RCR museum. So, they if it's true, they stay close, and it makes sense. It definitely needs a little bit of upkeeping and modernization, because I don't think Ram wants to be, putting out a bunch of publicity pictures each week behind the scenes of their beautiful new Ram truck in a rundown garage. That's probably not the goal here. And I know it sounds like such a minor behind the scenes thing, but one of the things we do at this channel is provide a behind the scenes look at, what actually goes into all this. It's not just, the guy behind the wheel. There's so many men and women's efforts that don't get considered, on a week to week basis here. But I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm a little nervous about the Haley Deegan thing. I hope it's not us. The Brendan Queen thing is interesting, and the Our Motorsports Shop is interesting. I will bring this topic up before we move on to SVG, because we don't have a long episode tonight. Do you think that this is leading to RCR switching to Dodge? Because I gotta say, I was more in the no, and then I was more 50-50, and now I just kind of look at everything and go, yeah, this might be happening.
Listen, I think it could happen. I think 2311 could come to Dodge as well, right? I mean, once they lose their charters, shit goes crazy. So, we know they're looking to add more. It's not just going to be Kaulig. When you sit here and say what makes sense, RCR makes sense. I just don't fully buy into it yet. I haven't seen anything. I haven't heard anything that makes me think they're close to making a decision. Doesn't mean they won't, but they've got time. And the same thing with Trackhouse as well. Again, we've heard that they're kind of holding out to see what Honda does, and if Honda comes in, then they would probably make that switch. But we really just don't know yet. And until we get into next year, I don't see any level. I do not see any announcement for any other team until May-ish, June-ish next year. There's no reason to announce sooner than that for any other team that wants to make the jump. Until then, so yeah, of course, RCR makes a lot of sense logistically. They're on, the Kaulig is on the RCR campus. They have the ECR engine. All of the things we've kind of touched on before. And of course, Austin Dillon has made the comments that he wants to, be more bold and make decisions. But as long as Pop is still running the show, I just don't feel like that switch is on the horizon. But I mean, listen, if Ram or Dodge shows up with a big old bag of cash and says, we're willing to give you priority, tier 1 resources, they'd be stupid not to at least consider it and maybe even make that switch. So as of today, I am still pretty firmly on the no. I don't think RCR is making the switch. But the rumors will persist, and until we get a clearer picture of where the second team is coming from, RCR does make the most sense logically. So certainly not going to discredit it or say it won't happen. I just don't feel like at this moment I have enough to say it's anything other than I don't think it's happening.
Yeah, I'm not super confident when I say that I think it's happening. I'm simply saying, if I had to pick one way or the other right now, my answer would be that it is. And it was Jordan Bianchi who had put it out there That's who Mopar Insiders was covering in their article about the possibility that they could switch. He doesn't think that's anything's necessarily imminent, and listed Kaulig as the most likely. It's like, well, no shit. You know what I mean? Like, we know Kaulig is going to do it, but we also know Dodge needs more than 2 cars or even 3 cars on track when they come back. So we'll watch that story as it unfolds. I agree with Ryan about, probably wouldn't hear anything until spring. That being said, I could also see a big announcement at the Daytona 500. Yes, it might discourage current manufacturer support, but we don't know what Kaulig's getting right now. All we know is they still have some sort of relationship with Chevy. The logos have not been scrubbed off the cars, and there's these firewalls they talk about. We'll see how it all plays out. But let's move on here, man, because we don't have much time. Not the weekend SVG was looking for at Gateway. Obviously, not the weekend at Darlington either. He finds himself 15 points out of the playoffs, heading to Bristol, a track he's admittedly not great at, but it's also a track that you and I know in the blink of an eye, chaos can happen. I would suggest that it's probably unlikely for SVG to get stage points, and I think we both know it's unlikely he's going to win the thing. So if he's getting no stage points and he's not going to win the thing, where does he have to finish just to give himself a chance? And obviously he will need some help to make up those 15 points as well.
Yeah, I mean, to give himself a chance, he needs to finish top 15. To give himself a fighting chance, I would say he needs to figure out a way to finish top 10. That's a big ask, and I don't think it's going to happen. I don't know if he's got a top 10 on an oval this year. I don't think he does. I think his best finish is 12th or so. So asking him to exceed that year-long performance is certainly not expected or likely. But listen, one thing about Bristol, even in its current form, where there isn't quite as much bumping and banging and wrecking as there once was, it's still the action track. Some crazy stuff can happen. I remember a couple years, 2-3 years ago, Kevin Harvick, who had a great regular season, ended up having rubber in his right front cord and catch around the rotor and catch fire, and the car basically burnt to the ground, and he ended up finishing way, way down in the field and missed the next round. Chaos can happen, and we know for sure that they are bringing a new right tire that, according to Denny Hamlin, completely corded and destroyed Goodyear's tire testing machine at the factory. They're expecting this right side tire to, best case, last about 70 laps before it completely falls apart. And I expect potentially it's going to cord sooner than that, 50 laps maybe. Similar to the spring race from a couple of years ago. And if that happens, then all bets are off, right? Like, you have to be able to conserve your tire. You have to obviously be fast. I would expect some unexpected things to happen. Somebody that we aren't expecting to potentially lose a tire, wreck, finish poorly. Like, there's a lot of variables in play. It is still the Bristol night race. It's going to be a great show. And SVG's got to figure out a way to stay out of trouble, which is, we acknowledge that going into the playoffs, he needed to be consistent, and he hasn't been to this point, but he's got one more opportunity to put it all together, have a clean night, figure out a way to run top 15 and give himself a chance. That's all you can ask for. And, looking at the playoff drivers directly above them, you got Austin Cindric, who's plus 11. He's beatable, I think. Ross Chastain, his teammates, plus 19, and Joey Logano, who I predicted would be eliminated in the first round, is plus 21. Not great odds, but any one of those 3 drivers could have something go terribly wrong, and they're gettable if you have a good night.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. The one thing I don't know, I don't think top 15 is going to cut it. If you assume he's not winning and he's not getting stage points, not to say it's impossible, the right caution patterns could fall his way. I just don't see him finishing a stage in the top 10 personally. I think he's got to finish no worse than 11th or 12th in the race, and even then hope for help because when you look at what is he, 15 points behind, and if you assume that guy gets no stage points, he's going to have to be basically 16 positions better than someone who gets no stage points, and also someone else. He doesn't have to be 16 positions better than someone else. I think it'll have to be like 11 or 12. So, I don't envy him. He's got a tall task ahead of him, and it's not going to be easy. They have their work cut out for them. And if there is stage points, then you're talking, you could be talking as much as you need to be 20, 22 positions ahead of someone. And then you're talking about someone finishing almost last and you finishing, 13th, 12th. He needs some help this weekend for sure.
Yeah, I will say this with the aggressive tire that Goodyear is promising they're bringing to the table this weekend. Again, they need some cautions to kind of fall their way. But you have to be super aggressive, maybe try to get some stage points in stage one if it's possible, risk staying out if there's a late race caution to try to maximize a finish. They're going to have to take risks. They took some risks at Darlington, and I personally felt like it wasn't a bad decision to do what they did, considering how bad their car was at Darlington to run long. Obviously, it bit them in the ass. They're going to have to take similar risks again this weekend, potentially run long or stay out, try to gain some track position, flip a stage if they can, if the brakes fall their way. We're going to see a lot of desperate drivers doing some desperate things. And by the way, the other thing we have to consider is SVG is not alone, right? Like, I'm looking at who else is right there with them. Austin Dillon, minus 11 comes to mind. He's in a position too to do similar. So, it's not a vacuum. SVG is not out there racing alone. He's got to jump Austin Dillon too. It's a tall task any way you slice it. But if there is a track where things can get really spicy really quickly, Bristol's certainly it.
Yeah, we'll have to see how the tire comes into play, because when you think about it, if they're only getting 70 laps, 70 green flag laps at Bristol is what, just over 20, 25 minutes? So,
yeah, it's 16-second laps, so it won't take long.
Yeah, so it could be chaotic a lot there, and that's another pit road you cannot afford to make a mistake on. You make a mistake on Bristol's pit road, and you are potentially in big, big trouble. Dude, any other final NASCAR thoughts before we get out of here?
Listen, it's been a crazy, crazy couple weeks, but I'm just really excited to see where the next, this round goes. The playoffs are changing potentially. I guess I want to touch on that super quick. We did see Jordan Bianchi was on Door Bumper Clear earlier in the week, and he strongly hinted at a change in format next year where they go 3 rounds, 4 rounds to finish the year. Super interesting topic. I know we can touch on this a little bit more in another video, but I wanted to bring that to light in our overarching NASCAR segment of Rammin is Racing that it sounds like that we're going to have some new debates on how to best proceed in the playoffs going forward, and the winner take all Game 7 format might be changing after this year. So how that helps our drivers, if at all, is a topic for another debate. But it is I'm glad the NASCAR is at least listening to us and throwing away what nobody wants, which is the current playoff format. So not going to affect how things play out this year, but something to look forward to going into next year.
Well, not nobody, because I'd rather the current playoff format. I like the entertainment value of it. I've always liked it. I'm also biased to it because I was in an iRacing league that did it before NASCAR did it. And I also think going to 4 races at the end is extreme already. I think 2 or even 3 would have been better, but jumping to 3, 3, 4 instead of 4, 3, 3 doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense to me. If you haven't yet, though, click the like button. Please subscribe to the channel for more content. For bonus content, check us out at Patreon, patreon.com/Kaulignation. Ryan, where can they find you at, man?
Yeah, you can find me on X over at Yacht Racing 45, or hanging out on our Facebook pages here and there, just sharing the news and notes of all things racing, Kaulig Racing on our various socials, Kaulignation, Dingernation, SVGNation, and the lot. So, yeah, always happy to get down and talk NASCAR with all of our fans.
All right. I apologize for us being late tonight, guys. That's on me, and we'll make it up to you in a future episode. But for now, that's going to do it for us. And we will see each and every one of you in the next video. And also, big shout out to our patrons and channel sponsors, Lynn over at SVG Nation on Facebook, Alex over at Dingernation. We couldn't be here without